Hey everybody, welcome back to Blacks in Bitcoin, where everybody's welcome, but I stay black and loving Bitcoin. And like to welcome back to the pod, the esteemed ICO startup lawyer out of California, truly a California now, thanks to a little off-air tidbit about surfing. It's small businesswoman extraordinaire, Shanita Nicholas Esquire. Welcome back to the podcast, Shanita.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. It's always
Yeah. Do you ever
always a
use the
pleasure.
Esquire? I always kind of wondered. Do people actually use the
I
Esquire? Or is that
don't
like really bougie?
no, I get it in my whenever I get letters in the mail, they always use Esquire. I feel fancy, but
I bet your parents put the Esquire on for you though, do they? Don't
yeah.
they? Oh, that's awesome. Well, so that's actually a good segue into my first question, which is basically I just want to have you talk a little bit about what you do, and particularly how it might pertain to the cryptocurrency space.
Of course, yeah. So I am mainly a startup attorney. So I work with startup clients and then also venture capitalist on structuring equity financing from uh, seed funding all the way through M&A, so mergers and acquisitions transactions, and then also looking more recently at some of the companies that are looking to do ICOs and going down an alternative route for financing in that way. So kind of all of the things with startups and how they are trying to get money and also structuring themselves properly so that they can have good governance.
So have you found that a lot more uh, businesses or startups or whatever are looking more towards ICOs, or do you find that when they do look towards ICOs, and you, being the lawyer you are, give them that good guidance about ICO, regulatory guidance and governance? Do you find that most people just kind of just be like, it's a headache, I don't want to do it?
For better or for worse, that has been a more common response. I think people have either decided to go through it and do it in a regulatory, at least people who come to me. If they're not coming to me, there's a lot of other people who are doing it that aren't doing it this way. But if they're coming to me, they've either decided to go down in a regulated manner and doing it along the lines of SEC proposals if they're in the United States, or they're doing some sort of a hybrid mix of an ICO, still regulated, and then traditional financing is what I've been seeing lately.
So would you say there are okay, so I guess sell me as the small businessman who needs to raise funds. Sell me on why I would want to do a regulated ICO besides your inherent professional love of the law.
Well, I mean, at this point, mostly, I can't think of really a startup or a business idea that won't fall under the category in the United States. If you want to raise an ICO, it almost has to be regulated. So it really then becomes jurisdictional. And then that's, if you want to be in the US, you kind of have to regulate it.
No, no, I want to be an outlaw. Uh, well, and speaking of some of those outlaws, so let's say I had the money to do like a legit ICO. I'm not going to scam people. I'm going to, I want to set up shop in Malta. Now, does that innately prohibit me from marketing to the United States if I don't go through a regulatory framework?
It doesn't prohibit you as the business owner necessarily from marketing into the United States. What it prohibits potentially are investors investing in you. So they can find you.
What's the point of marketing if no one invests?
I mean, there are ways. People have certainly gotten around it. This is not from me, but
Oh,
there are
okay, we
ways
might have to speak off air then.
of structuring things where maybe you're not necessarily identified as a U.S. investor, but for the most part, if you're going to be identified in some sort of KYC structure that's happening, and you're identifying as a U.S. citizen, then you'll be implicated in those legal structures, the regulations. Um, there are ways that people are trying to figure out to get around it, certainly. Uh, but I think if you're looking at it that way, probably crux, at least from what I've seen, the crux of individuals doing the investing don't tend to be in the United States. So, I don't know how important it is to, if you carve out the entire jurisdiction of the states for the company. So it's really dependent on the company and who they're reaching out to and how they're structuring it. And again, I mentioned potentially some companies doing hybrid ICOs in traditional equity fundraising. So there's all kinds of ways to think about it.
Well, okay, I had another question, but talk to me a little bit about what a hybrid ICO would be. What is that?
Mhm.
That's kind of new to me.
Yeah, so you can do a traditional VC, go out and raise money through that. So you have your potentially you have a prospectus, you have what is kind of the equivalent of a white paper. You're going out to, the biggest thing, going out to accredited investors for the most part, or you're under the Jobs Act and doing a Reg A plus or something in that manner, where it's the regulated process that we talked about.
Right.
And then in conjunction with that, you can have these tokens that are circulating in the international market that you're raising funds for. And the question then becomes, well, how do these two interrelate with one another? And maybe you're giving away that's, depends on how the company may structure it, but you just have these two streams of equity, and both of those financiers that are coming in will request different judging criteria from you on how you're going to execute on it. So it tends to be less likely, and this is just a big caveat for a company that's doing an ICO. Typically, from what I've seen, they don't have the platform built out. It's usually an idea, usually a really amazing, innovative idea, and the funding is to build the platform to actually create it. When you look at traditional equity fundraising and potentially why a lot of people have gotten away from it, you almost need a finished product of some sort, at least in our first iteration, for people to be interested. So that's the playoff. There's a lot of gives and takes involved with doing something like that, depending on who you're looking for investors.
No, it almost sounds like you're running like two simultaneous ICOs, one in the United States and one for the rest of the world, where there are less rules, but then the one with the United States is like a little more formal. Is that about accurate?
Yeah, I think that's right. It wouldn't be an
Hybrid model.
ICO. Yeah,
Mhm.
hypothetically, it wouldn't be an ICO in the States because you wouldn't be doing it through coins. If you're doing it through coins and it's regulated,
Oh, I see. Okay, I see what you're saying.
then you might
Okay.
as well just do it that one
Yeah, might as well
way.
just go to Malta. Yeah,
So you're
exactly.
gonna,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, that's fair.
yeah.
So, all right, well, and that kind of brings me to one of my other questions, actually a hybrid of a question, because I see a couple of them smash into. So, if I were to start an ICO, I mean, in not necessarily advertising your service per se, but like, what can someone expect in a range of legal expenses? Like, are we talking like, I mean, let's say I want to get an ICO up and running within 6 months, right? Like, I mean, what kind of ballpark are we looking at, like start to finish? I mean, it sounds kind of expensive, no?
Yeah, I mean, it can be pretty pricey. You're essentially writing out, the prospectus. So if you're talking about regulated, you're going through all of the forms and regulations that have to be fulfilled. So you're looking at least at a retainer of 25 to 50,000, and then as hours build up, and depending on complexity and how many investors you have coming in, can go up from there. But I wouldn't imagine a retainer being less than that 25 to $50,000 range.
Ah, hit you in your pockets. That was cheap to
I
do an
know.
ICO. Okay.
This is ridiculous. So this is, if you're pulling all the stops and getting the documentation done, and again, it is specific on the company, but I would foresee at least a request for a retainer of about that.
Okay, so what about so one of my questions is, do you feel like is there a significant fear, at least among the legal side of the crypto community, that the either the IRS or the government or whatever is going to retroactively go back and punish people who are doing unregulated ICOs that are based in the United States?
I think that is a fear that's been circulated for sure. I think there's two fears from the law firm perspective or a legal perspective. One is that retroactive punishment for companies that just went ahead and did it, and there's fines involved in that and more money. And the second to that is reputational for really everyone involved. From the legal perspective, if you're giving bad legal advice that has come back to bite your client in the butt, that's your livelihood. So you lose your reputational standing in a way. You can be as upfront as you can possibly be about the changing regulations and things like that. But at the end of the day, if somebody comes back and says the way that you analyzed this law was just wrong, there's still a reputational aspect to it. So it's a tug of war almost for wanting to be ahead of the curve and innovative, and not halting growth and innovation, but also tempering that so that you're not getting too ahead of the law in the opposite direction.
Okay. So within the legal community, do they see ICOs and even crypto in general as a new opportunity, oh, here's this great new cash cow we can drum up more business in, or do they kind of feel like it's this weird unregulated thing that's going to be eventually stomped down and we're just not going to want to have anything to do with it? And I only ask that because the lawyer for Cinema Draft, the second I brought up cryptocurrency, she's like, I don't know anything about it, I'm not licensed to regularly do anything. Don't talk to me about your don't talk to me about your intangible coins, to kind of quote Trevon James. Don't talk to me about your intangible coins. So what do you I mean, at least from your perspective, and especially being on the front lines, for the people, for the the crypto people, what do you think has been general legal reception about this new business?
Yeah, I mean, I think from what the attorney you spoke with said, it really is, there's some legal requirements that we as attorneys have that you can't give legal advice on something you don't know about. And a lot of people just don't know about this area. And it's hard to know about it because it's always changing and there's no set rules. So it's hard to say in almost all perspectives of it, from a design perspective and engineering and a service provider, to say that you're an expert in it. It's just really hard at this stage to be an expert in ICOs, crypto, blockchain. It's just not.
There's no real school, right? People are making up blockchain university, or and Ripple gave out money to Arizona State or whatever, but nothing's really accredited per se. So,
right, exactly.
And so I'm a cryptocurrency expert. I'm like, yeah, okay. I've just been around for 5 years. That's it.
I think that makes you. I think time and being around it is the name of the game here, and just knowing what the waves have been. I think people are excited in the legal community for what could be, but there's certainly a hesitation of that moving forward because of that particular raising. I get so many emails that I see circulating of just other attorneys asking who has expertise in it, and there's not a lot of people raising their hands to say yes, it's me.
Ooh, you're a hot commodity, huh, Shanita?
Oh, I'm not saying I'm an expert either. I'm still learning as we go, but I've seen a bit more than a lot of attorneys have, and that's not saying a huge ton, just because there's so much that's going on every day with it.
Okay. Well, so do you have any piece of advice to those crypto / ICO investors out there? Besides, of course, we always say DYOR, do your own research.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we kind of talked about this before, knowing, is our jurisdictional restrictions important to your company? Is that something that's going to impact you in any way on where you are physically? And then, looking at the options of different platforms on, what's the easiest way to go about this legal regime while still building up your company, because there is a ton of information. So trying to figure out, if it's a platform or a meetup group or whatever it is that brings together different experts on the topic from different areas, so that you start to get, you may not be expert in all the areas, but you start to quarterback what your ICO process looks like.
Okay. All right. Well, that was very enlightening and frightening as a U.S. citizen. Sadly, who knows? Maybe I might be moving to Malta sometime soon. But no, this is all really good information. I appreciate it. Want to bring you around to our next segment, which is for the culture. And as many of you all know, my background is in entertainment, and I want this segment to be about something in entertainment or pop culture that really moved my vessel, or to highlight something or someone that was black in Bitcoin. Sometimes it'll be in crypto, sometimes it won't. This time it has absolutely nothing to do with crypto because we're taking it back to 1985, maybe. Because last weekend I binged the second season of Glow, that is the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. It was incredible because, one, yes, I am old enough to remember when Glow used to show up on when I was a kid, like late at night on like the public, it was like the public access channel or something, or like late night, like, channel 13 or whatever, and they'd be jumping from the top rope with these ridiculous costumes and stuff. So I absolutely loved kind of seeing that little bit of nostalgia, super 80s style, but also it's like a really well done half-hour show on Netflix. There's only 10 of them. You can knock through it in a night. It's excellent. That is my for the culture. I love it. It's a great time. And you can actually watch both seasons probably in a day. They go by just that fast. It's really good. It's a really good show. Do you have a contribution for the culture, Shanita?
For the culture. Oh, I didn't think this is something I should have thought about.
Prepared. You don't watch or enjoy anything all
Well,
crypto all the time?
no, actually, what I'm excited for this weekend, I'm coming out tomorrow, a new movie, Sorry to Bother You. So
Yes.
excited about it. So that you now know my weekend plans. I think it's going to be a really great kind of faceted movie to go watch.
So for the culture preview, okay, I can respect that, and thank you for reminding me too, because tonight, shortly after we wrap up here, I'm gonna go see Ant-Man and the Wasp in 3D D-Box. So stuff will be flying on my face while my seat's moving. It's gonna be the best of all worlds. And yeah, and usually I look for something Friday mornings or afternoons to watch, and I will probably go check out Sorry to Bother You. That's a great recommend. Look at you! Look at you, Shanita, adding to the culture.
Try and do it for the culture.
Yeah. Well, I know your hours are always billable and you are still at the office, and I can't afford this conversation. So we're going to wrap it up and let you get back to work or get you out of there. Where can you find Blacks in Bitcoin? You can start by going to our site at blacksinbitcoin.com, BLACKS in bitcoin.com. We also have a Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. No Snapchat. We don't do none of that. You can also subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Music, SoundCloud, wherever you find your favorite podcast at for free. We also have our YouTube channel. Also, feel free to contribute any way you can to our pod. We have links below in the description if you're watching this on YouTube to either get your Bitcoin at Coinbase. If you get your first $10, they'll give you an extra $10, and I'll get $10. That's very helpful. Or you can tip us at my blockchain wallet. That really long line of numbers in the description right there. And of course, visit the Blacks and Bitcoin store. Always bet on Bitcoin or Black Bitcoin. Always bet on Black, aka Wesley Snipes Past 57. Go check it out at zazzle.com/blacks and Bitcoin. Tell all your friends, tell a friend, tell a friend. Anything you want to plug before we're out of here, Shanita?
Yeah, we are almost up and running at Sip and Sonder Coffee Shop in Inglewood. We were just showcased in the Essence online magazine the other day. So look out
Really?
for
Wow.
that. We'll be
Strange.
but yeah, just we're out and about in Inglewood.
Well done. And honestly, if we'd actually coordinated this, my bad, I would have shown my Sip and Sonder mug. I was the very first Sip and Sonder mug purchaser, right?
Yes.
All right, that's right. Keeping our dollars black. All right, great. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, listening, watching, and sharing. And as always, if you love Bitcoin, hodl if you hear me. Peace.